Welcome, 欢迎大家. My name is Shenjan Liao. I'm the head of the School of Chinese Studies at China Institute and your host of Lunch and Learn. 欢迎大家参加我们的 Lunch and Learn 午间中文. I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Yongqiang Lin Lao Shi, who's a guest faculty from East China Normal University. Which has been our longtime partner since 2006. Yeah, Yongqiang, 打个招呼吧。
好大家好，我叫林永强，我来自华东师范大学。So 欢迎回来我们的老朋友 old friends and also 欢迎我们的新朋友 new friends。谢谢。
谢谢林老师。Yeah, welcome. We're excited about a new season, the autumn, 秋季, the Lunch and Learn fall season 2021. It's good to see some old friends and new friends.
491.
So just since it's our first session for the season, this is a monthly series. At the almost the first week of each month, we will have 1 hour of Lunch and Learn.
Representative.
We want to share our passion towards language, and in particular, the art of Chinese written language.
Open a CD.
Presents a profound beauty through the poetic way that it is written. We hope that this very brief and we cannot cover everything, but we hope it will serve as a small window to look into the vast history and culture of China. So we also hope that this is a series for someone who may have been deep into learning Chinese language and culture, but also for someone who may be just starting the journey with the curiosity of learning the language, the culture, the history, especially through poems. So we truly believe that in the end, a great poem or art in the general sense gives everyone what he or she needs and at the exact degree as needed. So just a little housekeeping. Many of you have been here for over a year. I cannot believe this is a wonderful journey with all of you so far. And also we have new friends every season joining us. So for this season, as usual, we will select one poem that you can see on the screen right now. We will read the poem together. Don't worry if you don't read the Chinese character, we will guide you through. And then for this season, I will also, for each session, perhaps look into 1 or 2 characters, the etymology of the character or characters, and perhaps also look into some of the objects. It could be a brush painting, it could be a bronze item, it could be a statue that may be related to the theme of the poem or the session. And also we will try hard, it's only 1 hour, but get to a breakout session so we can divide the group. Today, I believe we have, how many do we have today? Somewhere around 20 participants. So we hope we will break into 2 smaller groups so we can unmute ourselves and we can read the poem together to practice more on the pronunciation. And in the end, there's a lot of content. Lin Lao Shi has prepared a few questions for us to all play. So let's get into today's session. You can see my screen, right? So today we are reading Wang Jiangnan by Li Yu. Gazing at river south. Note that there is a word tune in the title. That indicates this is a poem in the tradition of 词 Literally, 词 means words or lyrics. It's actually a major genre of China's literary, especially poetry tradition, that poems are writing lyrics essentially to the tune patterns. So Wang Jiangnan, the characters we are seeing here, is the title of the tune pattern. It's not the title of the poem, but usually this is how the poem in 词 tradition will be identified. We also take translation very seriously, and it's a very convenient, luck that we have that today we are looking at a translation by Mr. Ben Wang, who's a senior lecturer and also an award-winning translator at China Institute. We took the translation from his book. If you can see me here, this is the book, Forlorn in the Rain. It's a collection of Mr. Ben Wang's favorite classical Chinese poems. He himself did the translation. So we have conveniently located the version here because for this 1 hour, we will not go deep into the translation, the meanings too much. So choose a good translation so that we can get the English meaning across. Is very important for the Lunch and Learn sessions. Now let's take a look at the entire poem. Some of you may know at this point, I will read the poem in its entirety, just all at once, but you can also try to follow me just to get a sense of how the poem is sounded. I would invite you to look across the English translation so that while you are reading or listening, you can get the meaning or the gist of the poem. All right, here we go. 望江南.
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 So at this point, I would invite you to first mute yourself. We will go into the reading together later. This part, well, you can mute yourself and you can follow me. But then don't worry if you don't know all of the characters or know how to pronounce, because we will go into a part that we will do it one word after another. But please mute yourself at this point, and I will invite everybody to come back later. All right, I will start from the first line. 闲梦远，南国正清秋。千里江山寒色远，芦花深处泊孤舟。笛在月明楼。So it's very short, 27 characters. And as I mentioned in 词, this is a poem in 词 tradition. One major characteristic of 词 poems is look at each line has different number of characters versus some of you may know in 诗 tradition, each line has exact number of characters. So when you look at two classical Chinese poems, one with irregular number of characters for each line, and the other may be exact same number of characters, then you can roughly tell one is 词, the other one is 诗. Both are poetry genres. All right, before we read each line together, I will go into the story of the author, the poet, Li Yu. As many great Chinese poets, Li Yu is not a professional poet. Instead, he is a king from this very brief period, 5 dynasties, 53 years sandwiched in between the great Tang dynasty and another long dynasty, Song dynasty. So as the name may suggest, 5 dynasties, we could imagine between these 2 great dynasties, this 55-year period may be quite chaotic. At the end of the great Tang Empire, the territories were divided into smaller kingdoms controlled by different powers. Li Yu was the king of one of those small kingdoms. I will show a map from 943, and you can maybe get a sense of how the small kingdoms would look like. So basically, here we are looking at a large area, especially looking at this part. You can follow the mouse. The southern part, this is the Yangtze River. The southern part has 10 small kingdoms, one after another, within this roughly period. And the northern part had 5 dynasties. That's how the name 5 dynasties period was about. And Li Yu, as the king of a small kingdom, and he's from the southern Tang kingdom. It's this one little piece right here. In fact, Li Yu was taking the throne in 961. So if you look at the timeline here, by 960, Song dynasty already started. The Song Empire already has united the north part into one big empire. And because of the Yangtze River, the protection, Southern Tang Kingdom was not immediately taken over by the Song army. So when Li Yu was the king, starting 961, he had to face the threat from the Northern Song Empire already. In fact, in 975, eventually Song Empire took over the southern part of China at that time, or the empire at that time. And Li Yu was taken over to the north under the house arrest of the Song Emperor. He lost his kingdom with disgrace. And in 978, the Song Emperor, in fact, poisoned him to death. So that's a pretty tragic story of the poet. But again, if Li Yu was, if that's all about Li Yu's life, we would not be here reading his poem, Wang Jiangnan, today. In fact, Li Yu in China's history was also remembered as a great poet, especially in the Ci tradition, a great calligrapher and painter. The tragedy and the dramatic, disgraceful experiences he had to endure as a king who lost his kingdom are essential to his Ci poems, which until Li Yu in Tang Dynasty, for example, when Shi was the major genre, Ci already started, but considered to be quite unimportant and mainly just for entertaining, not to express deep emotions, feelings, and serious topics. It's until Li Yu that he infused tragic, philosophical, and deeply emotional dimensions into the Ci poems that made Ci a major genre later in Song Dynasty. So the Ci we are reading today, Wang Jiangnan, is written after Li Yu lost his kingdom. So now I will invite you to read after me. You can still mute yourself because we have over 33 participants and everybody has a different Wi-Fi speed and everything. So just want to make sure we're not interrupting each other. Just a quick run through the format, especially for some new friends. The first line is the Romanized Chinese pinyin, indicating the pronunciation with tones. Second line, the written format of Chinese characters. The third line is the literal translation of each character. And the bottom line is the poetic translation from Mr. Ben Wang's translation version. So I will read twice. The first time I will pause after each character or each word, and you can, so that to allow you to read yourself. And the second time I will complete the entire line and pause, and then we move on to the next. All right, so here we go. 闲梦远
梦远
闲梦远
前梦远
南国
南国
正
正
经
经
秋南国正清秋
南国
正
清秋
很好 keep it up, but I will take a little detour here. So let's read this together. 秋
秋
What's the meaning of 秋?
autumn
Yep. Today we can just easily just consult a Chinese English dictionary or Google, or we just know it. It's autumn. But is that really all about this character? We may heard that Chinese written language, Chinese language is pictographic. What does that really mean? I hope, well, today we can look into this character. It's the autumn season. We are smell and feel the cool, crisp air of the, oh, somebody is writing on it. Yep, that's how you write it. But what I will show is actually a little bit deeper into the history of this character. The way that we're looking at it right now is its current day form. But imagine this word, this character actually was created thousands of years ago, at least 3,000 years ago. What that character would like at that time. So this is the story that I want to share today about this character. I would ask first, if you are sharing your screen or using whatever technology to write on the screen, please pause. And I also would ask Lin Lao Shi, my tech support.
This red letter is mine.
Yeah, to please clear the canvas so that I can share the different version. Or maybe I will stop sharing. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So
Okay,
let's take a look at this. And perhaps while in your mind, while trying to think what this would look like, this version is the character how Qiu is written from the oracle bones. That's the earliest record of written Chinese characters from over 3,000 years ago. And we can see, well, there are two parts. The top part, can someone tell me what do you think it looks like?
Here. Looks like horns. Looks like an animal.
Looks like an animal. Thank you. Marilyn, is that you?
是。
我能够听出你的声音。So, yeah, we don't have too much time, but this is a pretty good guessing game. But so the top part is actually looking like an animal, to be precise, more of an insect.
Insect.
You can see the head here, and with the, what's the word, whisker? I guess that's for cats, antenna coming out, and you see the body and the two legs here, right? So it's a profile of an insect. To be precise, perhaps picturing 3,000 years ago, ancient Chinese, well, in the season of autumn, the kind of insects, and mostly crickets, that what we can even hear them today, would be around in the field. And this bottom part is a symbol or a picture of fire. So during the autumn season, at the end of the harvest, while people or at ancient time would be burning the dead crops, and together with the dying insects during that time to prepare for the next year. And this is a pretty vivid picture of what Qiu, or this picture represents what Qiu means to the people who created the character at that time. And keep in mind that that's 2003 or 3,000 years ago, roughly speaking. And later, we don't know exactly how many years later, this is what the character looks like. So here it looks quite different from the original version. By the way, originally, this is not the only version. There are various, well, different versions, even though similar idea, insects or bugs or crickets burned during that season, that becomes the symbol of the season. But here it's more lineal, meaning there are lines more obvious to form the character. But we can still sort of, well, see this part on the right. It still captures the profile of an insect in a more abstract way. The head is still here. And then the antenna, you have the more sort of abstract leg here, and the wings perhaps on the back. What's different is now the fire is here, and on the top, there is another part that represents the crops, or maybe the vegetables, or the sorghum, the perhaps not the sorghum, the rice, the wheat, whatever was planted in the field at the time. So this actually becoming more complicated compared to this picture at the beginning. And the next version I want to share is much more simplified, and we can see a more direct resemblance of our current form. So this is actually the version from around 200 AD, and from a book, 说文解字, and it's the first book that in Eastern Han Dynasty around 200 AD, Xu Sheng, who's the writer of this book, collected thousands of Chinese characters and looked into its etymology, and that's how Qiu was written at the time. And compared to this version, we can see the entire insect part has dropped. And we still have the fire, the plant or the crop on the other side, and it's very close to our current version of Qiu. So when we look at the current version, we know there's a fire there, and we can immediately picture the crops while during the season burned in the field. The insect part is completely dropped visually, but it's actually still in this character. Do you know where? So the pronunciation of this is chiu. It's the same pronunciation of this character in itself. It's a rare character to be used or to be seen in later time in China, but the pronunciation of this part is chiu. It's actually mimicking the sound of the insects, like the crickets in autumn time would sound like this, and that's how the pronunciation of chiu is coming from. So yeah, that's a very brief history of the character. The idea is, well, when we look at a pictographic picture of or Chinese character as a pictographic way of creating meaning, sometimes, well, there are so many images or meanings or layers are lost in direct translation from Chinese to English. So when we look at the Chinese version and the English version of the poem, inevitably there are some layers that will be lost, but still there's so much that we hope that we can decipher through the read-aloud session, and hopefully it will trigger some interest to look into this etymology part of Chinese learning, which, by the way, very rarely people, even in China, would learn Chinese this way, but it's just a tremendously interesting and unique part of Chinese language. I want to mention this word just preceding chiu very briefly. We don't have a lot of time. I'm aware of that, but this is just such a lovely character I want to share. So let's get to the picture first. The right part looks like this.
Chiu.
Exactly, the same pronunciation as qing here. And in itself, it's a character of its own meaning. But what does that mean? Of course, you can Google.
Is it green and blue? Like a greenish blue?
Greenish blue, exactly. But let's take a look at an ancient form of how this character is written. This is the version from Western Zhou dynasty. That's around 1000 to 700 BC. So we're talking something about over 2000 years. And look at this picture. This bottom part looks like a field. It's a field, it's a land that's growing maybe vegetables, maybe crops, but we can see what's growing in the land on the top. And later in Xu Shen, from the same book that I mentioned, Xu Shen's version, the character is already sort of looking pretty much like our modern day Qing. And exactly as Xiaoan mentioned, well, current day, the meaning is green, blue, it's greenish blue, it's bluish green, it's a color. But by looking at the origin of this character, we know that this color is closely associated with growth, with life that's coming out of land. And precisely this color is to describe a lush vegetation or plants, or the lushness of the crops that's growing in the field. So our character here is to add, we can see 3 dots on the left side. That represents, I know some of you know that. that represents
水
水
so water.
对的 water. So in Shushen's time, that's how water would look like. So if just looking at this character from originally from about 200 AD, we see the lushness on one side and water on the other side. Even though the meaning now today is clean, clear, it's to describe the water or the quality of kind of water that's associated with whatever it's describing. But there is a liveliness in it. And in fact, this character Qing and the color it represents, so beloved in China. And it's often associated with life, with grace and elegance. So by looking at this Qing, and even today's version, this Qing, there is not only the clean and clearness of the water that it invites us to picture, but also the color, the liveliness that it represents. And there is even a temperature dimension in it, because this Qing, when we are thinking about it, it adds to this coolness in it. So, excuse me, when we look at the translation, it's not clear autumn sky, it's cool autumn sky, because it really brings that dimension of temperature into how we feel when we look at this character. And Qing almost exclusively, when it comes to describing the season, it's preceding Qiu. So we have Qing Qiu here. Qing, in my recollection, would never be in front of like Chun, spring, Xia, summer, or Dong, winter. It's always in front of Qiu, Qing Qiu. So that's our a little bit long detour. Now we are back to the poem. Let's read this line together and we move on. 南国正清秋，
南国正清秋，
很好。千里 Yeah. All right. Again. 千里
千里
江山
江山
寒
寒
色
色
远
远
远
千里江山寒色远
千
千里江山
江山寒色远
芦花
芦花
深处
深处
就
薄
薄
孤
孤
舟
舟
舟
芦花深处泊孤舟
芦花深
深
处
处
泊
国
孤舟
舟
Last line. 敌
敌
在
在
月
月
月
明
明
明
楼
楼，
楼
敌在月明楼
敌在月明楼。
明楼
很好 All right. That's the entire poem. So let's do this together. How about that? And at this point, I would also, well, still, if you could mute yourself, that would be great. And we probably will have about 5 or 10 minutes get into the breakout session. All right, let's go together. I will pause after each line, starting from the tune title. 望江南
望江南，
闲梦远， 南国正清秋，
南国正清秋，
千里江山寒色远。
这里江山
芦花深处泊孤舟。
芦花深处泊孤舟。
This, can you? 敌在月明楼。
敌在月明楼。
很好。Okay, now a bit of without pinyin challenge. Let's do this together. 望江南，
望江南，
李煜。
李煜，
闲梦远，
见梦圆，
南国正清秋。
南国正清秋，
千里江山寒色远。
千里江山寒色远。
芦花深处泊孤舟。
芦花深处泊孤舟。
敌在月明楼。
敌在月明楼。
So before we go into the breakout session, I want to quickly show two paintings. As I mentioned, Li Yu is not only known as a great poet, but also a great calligrapher and painter. However, unfortunately, we don't have any of Li Yu's painting known left. I have two paintings here that's known or believed to have Li Yu's calligraphy on it. So one is by Zhao Gan from 5 Dynasties. This is a part of a piece, a longer piece. It's 江行出雪图. This is a rare piece that's from 5 Dynasties. If you see the long scroll, well, there are many seals from emperors, from great collectors that shows the authenticity of this piece, the lineage of the collection, the collectors. So Li Yu's handwriting, the calligraphy is right here. This 11, some of them cut short of this picture, that he literally wrote down the title, 江行出雪, and then 画院 Academy of Art. 学生 student. 赵干, that's the name of the painter. 状 means depicting here. So it's from this title or this line that Li Yu wrote, or this is believed to be written by Li Yu. And there are some minor, not necessarily minor, but with debates on that as well. But this is how this piece was given the title, 江行出雪. And this is a much longer piece that's almost 5 meters long and a little over 1/4 meter wide. We don't have time to show the entire piece, but this is to give an idea that it shows the river, the people fishing in the river and walking along the river. It's quite amazing, detailed piece that's now in the National Palace Museum in Taipei. Another piece is much closer, that we can actually see at the mat. This is the Zhao Ye Bai, Night Shining White by Han Gan from Tang Dynasty. This is prior to Li Yu's time. So this is a pretty much more sure that he wrote Han Gan Zhao Hua. This is like painting Zhao Ye Bai, these characters that's known to be Li Yu's calligraphy. And if you go to the mat, yeah, then I would encourage you to really see this masterpiece. It's a major collection in the China's art gallery. And all the others, it's quite interesting if you go to the website of the mat, you can really see and read the inscriptions, the poems, and some of the seals by the most famous collectors of this piece. So that's a very quick run through of these two paintings that have some relevance with Li Yu, the poet, that what we are reading today. I will stop sharing right here. The first session, it's always sometimes the run over a little bit because we have to do housekeeping and introduction and everything. So I hope next time we have a better control of the time. I do want to, Lin Lao Shi, I want to introduce for those of you who want to and have time to stay for a few minutes. Lin Lao Shi has prepared a few questions related to today's session. So it's a pop-up quiz time.
Yeah, it's a quiz time and a fun time too. 好，那我开始。
Yes, please.
Okay, let's play Kahoot.
Kahoot.
Yes, Kahoot. 现在你要拿出你的手机 cell phone. Take out your cell phone. You need to use your cell phone to log in to join this game. So you can see the www.kahoot.8. So browser this website, and you will see. It will ask you to put the game pin number.
Kahoot it, right?
Yeah, Kahoot 8.
Yeah.
So take out your phone. Yeah, we have the first participant, Sasha. Good.
How to
Teresa.
participate in this? Sir, how to participate in this?
Take out your phone, your cell phone, and
Yes.
you put in the browser kahoot.it and put in the game pin number after prompt 1044272, and we can see people are joining in. And also if you have questions and want to figure out how to use this, after this session, we can stay and help you as well. Because we want everybody to be able to join us to play.
好，几个人？我看看有几个，10个人，还有吗？
I'm coming.
Great. All right. Did I join? Oh, yeah. Okay. And while we are, one last thing, please sign in for the next session. It's going to be a different Zoom link. So please make sure if you are coming back, go to China Institute's website to sign in. And our recording will be up in our YouTube channel. So if you want to practice the poem more, you can go to the YouTube channel to listen and to watch. And all the previous sessions are there too. All right, 林老师。
好，我觉得我们可以开始。So you will see the question and the answer on the on my computer, on my screen, but you have to answer it on your phone. So choose the same color, the same answer on your phone. So let's start. Answer it on your phone and watch the question and answer on the screen and watch it on your phone. So question 1, very easy.
Yongqiang, can you sort of forward or you have to wait? Oh, good.
好，12。好，望江南是什么？是诗还是词？词 ，yes, good, yeah， 是词，不是诗 ，so we got the tune here, so 是词。好，下一个 ，let's see， 哦，马明最好。
马明 is faster than me. That shows how fast you answer the question.
Yeah,
I think.
so the scores is related to the the first how fast you answer the question and how correct it is. 第二个 ，which Chinese character does the picture represent? 不难 ，should be 不难。
How to play?
You pick the color on your screen, on your phone screen, as the answer.
是什么
Everybody is right.
？Q 对，都对了，很好，都对了，都对了。来下一个，来看看谁？哦，马明，
还是比我快。
我很笨蛋，今天我的运气好。
好，来一个，下一个。So the name of the river.
江河。
No, there is no 江河。
No river mentioned.
So what's the name of the Jiangnan? Jiangnan is the south part of the river. So what's which river do you think it is?
长江。
Don't tell others. Don't tell others. Just answer yours. Oh, 长江. Yeah, the right answer should be 长江. Yeah. So
This one is a little difficult. It's actually, I didn't mention directly in the poem. I just mentioned Li Yu's kingdom is south of Yangtze River.
Not sure. I was thinking of Yangtze River, but my answer came too late.
So we caught Nina. You can get that.
Yeah, 是长江. So when you heard of Jiangnan in Chinese, so it's talking about the south part of Changjiang of Yangtze River. 那我们看一看。Oh
my God.
Eric 第一。好，来下一个。You can make a guess of this question. Actually, we didn't game.
A little quiz that, whoops.
So what do you know about Li Yu, or what did you heard in this time? So 是什么？对 ruling. Actually, for me, I don't know exactly the answer is that, but what I know is Li Yu is very famous for his painting, calligraphy, and poetry. But ruling, we don't know. But what we know is he lost his kingdom.
Right.
好，来下一个，最后一个，我们看一看。哦，没变。好，最后一个，很简单。What's the meaning of this radical? Not the is this only part of the radical, not the Chinese character?
我按错了。我太快。我后悔。
So be slow a little bit, has it virtual.
水
什么？
水
Yeah. The meaning of this radical is 水 water 水。好，我们看看10个人对了，10个人对了，不错。我们看一看谁第1、第2、第3。
耶！
小安，
好
耶
好，
，Esther，第一个是谁
Thank you.
恭喜
？Eric，
恭喜
艾瑞克
Eric，
谢谢谢谢。
恭喜 Eric 第一，很好。然后谢
谢谢
所有人，谢谢你们，你们都做的很好。好，好
Thank you，Thank you，
I
林
stop
老
sharing
师。
now。
很好玩，
好，
谢谢。
也谢谢大家的参与。Thanks for joining us. So that's it for today's lunch and learn, and hope to see all of you next session. That's October 2nd.